Yo, what's up, world? This is Dane Tomas, and you're listening to the Dane Tomas podcast. Every week, I talk to experts, weirdos, new friends, and old ones about everything from magic to business to creativity and human awakening. So, strap yourself in, lay back and relax, cause we're heading straight for the black hole. What's up, world? You're listening to the Dane Tomas podcast, and I am here with Illuminati Congo. Brother, thanks for being here.
Peace. Thank you for having me.
I first crossed paths with this guy at a conscious hip hop yoga event, real briefly in Melbourne, and I don't know how long ago that was. It was a few years ago, and I've been following you since. And I guess we were just debating how would I possibly introduce you. But in my head, if I had to explain you, I would say that Illuminati Congo is a Chicago-based rapper who is deep in the conscious awakening journey. You got a body of work. We agreed that there's at least 13 releases on your discography, but maybe more. And you're a breathwork practitioner as well. Some of the themes that are strong in your music are Rastafarianism, Tantra, and non-duality. And this is not in your bio, but to my listening, I feel like you kind of bring that into a grounded sort of street flavor that is actually really quite loving, is one of the qualities that I think comes across in your music. So that's my little bio. I hope that does you justice. But
Thank you. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, thank you for for receiving me and taking the time to speak such edifying words about me.
My pleasure. Hey, let's start with the name. I love your name, and it's kind of loaded with power and meaning and all sorts. Illuminati Congo. How did you get a name like that? What does it mean?
The name stems from once again uniting those dualities, polarities of Illuminati and Nati Congo. So Illuminati is something that people feel is most people think that it's some type of group that either controls the world or is trying to control and manipulate the world and has this unlimited power and domination. Then we have Nati Congo, which is a way to say Rastafari type of people. So it comes together like that. Illuminati Congo, you hear the Nati in Illuminati, and you hear Nati Congo. So it just sort of comes together as a set. But then there's a lot more to it than that. You know, I've been immersing myself in the mysteries of illumination, the mysteries of the occult for many decades, and immersed in Rasta. So the name just was a fitting name for me. And it's really the brand. You know, I have so many other names, but that's the umbrella that I've been using to somewhat disarm fear-based consciousness, and return the symbols, return the claim or the affirmation of illumination to I and I, rather than it being calling some other people outside of us the Illuminati, when we're all really one illumination happening all the time.
Man, I love that. Something I noticed, you know, like the longer I followed you, the more commonalities in maybe the worldview that we're holding, even though some of the language or the access points maybe that we've had are different. Yeah. When I look at, you know, one of the things I really like that you do on your social media is kind of break down symbols. You know, there's this kind of like holding up of a symbol or of a word and kind of breaking that down into its roots and its meanings. And, you know, there's this sense that I have of the world, and maybe the world has always been like this. I don't really know, but it is that the majority of people they can't really read symbols, you know, like they kind of seem like they're forced to take things face value. So if the a media outlet says this, then that must be the truth, or that's not the truth, and we got to argue with that because the opposite must be true. And there doesn't seem to be, like in any scene that I've been a part of, a strong ability to kind of penetrate through to the deeper meanings or the hidden meanings. And I don't know, I just want to open that up. I want to get your point of view on, you know, where the world is at right now, what's going on from that sort of level of awareness, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wrote a book about this. This is one of my favorite topics. The book is called Synchronistic Phonetomology, and I had to make up my own words for the title of the book because I feel that it's a field of exploration that people cut themselves off from based on, like what you were saying, with the media or with academic institutions, and they make etymology to be only one thing, and which is like some historical origination of a word. So they say, oh, well, this word came from this word in Latin or in Sanskrit. And so that's the historical basis of etymology, is the only thing offered in the academia world. But the book that I wrote, Synchronistic Phonetomology, it offers a different theory that the sounds underlying any words, if those words are the same or similar, they're going to produce the same form cymatically. Like through cymatics, if I say the word right, like the Wright brothers who invented flight, or if I say the word right, like I'm writing it down, or say the word right, like the initiatic rites that I passed through, or say the word right, like the right angle, or like you're doing something right. Mm-hmm. It's all the same sound every time. And if it's the same sound every time, it's going to be producing the same or similar shape in the in the world of form, or in the world of subtle forms that quite possibly our world of form is a projection from. But through looking to the connections in sounds and connections that come up to us, that's why it's called synchronistic instead of just synchronistic, but the gnosis that's found in the synchronicities, by opening ourselves up to the gnosis found in synchronicities and opening ourselves up to the vibrations in these words or symbols, we have a greater chance at knowing ourselves, because it's not necessarily about knowing what someone else made a word to mean, or knowing others' meanings. It's about finding the meaning that works for us, and why did we find that meaning in the word. That's the second thing to look at, not just the meaning we find, but asking ourselves, why are we finding that meaning in that symbol or that word, and that's how we can actually use it to uncover the truth, because that's what the word etymology means, is the study of truth. Oftentimes people think it just means the study of similar sounding words in a historical context, but the etymology of the word etymology is the study of truth. Etymo being truth.
It's kind of meta that we just got the etymology of etymology into the conversation.
Yeah. So symbols don't have any meaning other than what we give it. But then there's universal, there's some type of common meanings that people find And that's why we're able to communicate, that we have common meanings. So we don't want to disregard common meanings. We want to uphold those and come together based on common meanings. But we also want to be free to create our own meanings, or build and add on, or subtract things like that don't resonate. Like, I don't really say certain words because I don't like their resonance. They don't work for me. Do I think they're bad? No, all words are fine, but are they the ones that I want to use to paint the picture that I'm painting? No. So there's certain words and symbols that I've removed from my usage, just because they're not ones that I particularly use.
Yeah, what this speaks to me, I said at the beginning when I was framing up why I'm doing this, this sort of theme of magic, which again is a word with many loaded meanings, but for me, there's a lot about the conscious creation of our reality in there, and what I'm hearing with your relationship to language, which is what you would hope for a rapper, but it's not really necessarily the case with, just because someone is using a lot of words skillfully doesn't mean they're using them with gnosis, I guess. But just using language as this technology of reality creation is something that I'm really passionate about. And
that's all words. That's all that words were made for. Language was made like runes. They say that the alphabet comes from runes, or from Sanskrit, or from Kabbalah, from Hebrew. All of the languages that you could say our languages English come from, are from magical symbols that were made to create reality. They weren't there just for, we just want to talk to each other and say, wasn't today a beautiful day? Oh, the weather is great. Hell yeah. That's not what words were created for. The words was created to create realities, to create worlds. You could see that in the word. You can see world in the word. So like logos means word in Greek. And then we have logic also, which comes from the word logos. And there's so many words related to wood, words related to wood in the English language. Even what's some other, even like verb, the word verb. You ever heard of lemon verbena, the herb lemon verbena, or how about mugwort,
right?
Or motherwort. That wort means wort means herb or a plant, but you hear the word inside of that as well.
It's kind of got a bit of that old English sounding flavor with it. That's the way that sort of that tone in there somehow, with the wart and the word and the wood.
Yeah, and that we can find this tree of life connection of wood and living plants inside of our language. There's a lot more, but my brain, I probably got to smoke some more weed to strengthen my memory.
As you wish, my friend. There's something I'm going to just touch on. Is really, while you're talking, there's this kind of hypnotic quality to unpacking words in that way, and what I really feel is it's kind of unlocking the left-right brain kind of balance, where a lot of words that it's almost we use them locked in a left brain way, like this word means this and that's fixed. And there's this phrase in NLP and hypnosis, phonetic ambiguity, which is the same as what you were saying of like, if I say just, do I mean only, or do I mean like righteous and fair? And if I intentionally start saying things like you're unconscious as you go into you're unconscious, just playing with that sound where the confusion of the person, of the double meaning, starts to just open up more than just the logical mind. And I really feel, particularly with things like rap, but I mean, it's happening in marketing 24/7, right? Like just the conditioning of using words to shape what the listener is hearing and seeing and thinking is a really powerful aspect of language. And I feel like not a lot of people are switched on to it. They just say stuff and they just hear stuff, and that's true for them. And I wonder where you would, let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, fuck, I've never thought of this. Like, what? Oh my God, words are programming me. Like, where would you send them to start, I guess, unraveling what language is doing to them and how to take a more of an active role in their mastery of language?
Well, the first place would be to go to emptiness, because we got to understand that words are empty, that there's no meaning, and there's no programming happening other than the programming we are deciding and participating with, in looking to make happen. So with the words that we're speaking, or that anyone's speaking, to know that they're all illusion first, that all words are empty of meaning, really allows us to be free from their grip. But if we wanted to take note or see an example in our lives on how words are programming, we can just look at like some of our beliefs around things. Most people believe for sure that death is inevitable, that physical death is inevitable, and it's spoken very often, repeated, almost in every almost anything you watch, almost any show. At one point they're gonna mention either that life is short, everyone must die, or they'll say we're all gonna die. That's one of the cancel clear. I'm cancel clear and delete all of that right now from our experience. But it is definitely something that we hear very often in shows, and it's also programmed in just in our learning in academia, even though there are definitely cases where we can point to that may not be true. We look at water bears, also known as moss piglets, tardigrades. They're these little tiny organisms that they have semi immortal abilities. It's pretty trippy. You could send them through outer space, blast them with radiation. They still don't die. They can be seeming like they're about to die and just be sitting there looking dead. And then as soon as they get a little water, they come back to life. Them joints, you got axolotls who, you cut their arm off and they'll grow back. They grow back arms. They grow back limbs. They can even grow back their own spinal cord. You have lobsters and jellyfish who are able to reverse aging. So you have all of these different things. I have documents and pictures of people who are like 12,000 or 1,200 years in one body. And this is confirmed by the Prime Minister of Health in Myanmar. And do I know that this is confirmed for sure? No, but I'm just saying there's people who are on board, who are in official positions, who say, yeah, the records of this proved to be true, whether it is or not. And so there's so many instances, even the earth, we haven't, people assume that, oh, it must die someday, or the sun, it must die someday. But all of those are speculations. But people carry on saying, well, everything dies. Even the sun must die. We know all, but none of these people been around to see it happen. None of these people been around to see the earth die, to see the sun die, to see all of the people that they swear must die. They never saw all of that happen, but they swear everyone dies. And they swear it's a scientific fact, even though they haven't been able to confirm that. And there's stories saying that that's not the case. Therefore, our words can program us and program others in beliefs, in the words around death. That I just went to one of the biggest ones because it's easiest to see how that program is prevalent in most people. Most people have the program that physical death is inevitable. So I figured going to that one would be the most universal, and we would be able to actually get a value out of going to that program to discover and unpack, because if we uncover that, we might be able to dissolve victim mentality in ourselves to some degree.
There's a lot of different paths we could go down with that. It's interesting. I messaged you. I had a friend die recently, and I messaged you around then because I knew your thinking and language around this is quite different. And where do I want to go with this? So I've been sort of processing that, right? This whole journey with a close friend, dying, however you want to call it, and there's definitely a profound opening that is coming with that, which I'm not even talking about the like physical immortality, but I guess into piercing past the dualistic realm, I guess, a little as well, which I know you have a lot to sort of share on that. But another part of it is also, it seems to me that a lot of our society and our habits and our culture is very fear of death based, even though maybe people don't recognize it as that. It seems like, like all the Hollywood starlets and hot actors and models that we sort of fetishize as a culture are like 20 years old, right? Like they should look fresh, we're not really into aging or decay or recognizing any of that. But the fear piece, I guess, is what I want to talk to you about,
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on fear in our culture and how it impacts the world?
Yeah, well, that's probably fear in all the different ways it plays out is probably one of the main sources for many of the ailments that we seem to face as humanity. And a lot of them might stem from the fear of death, and not just the fear of death, but the misunderstanding of life, thinking that death is the opposite of life, rather than just seeing death as the other side of birth. Thinking that life can somehow end because all that's alive must die. Like that seems like a false concept to me, that death couldn't even be a thing that happens if it wasn't living. Like for decay to happen, everything that's taking place in when something is decaying is life. Everything there is living to make that decay happen. So it's really life that is triumphing every time, even when, no matter what is happening, even if a person's or an animal or some type of entity structure makes a transition, it's still life that is supreme in it all. But how do we, and is it possible for we as a human to tune into that? And do we have more fear in our lives if we don't know that it's a possibility to tune into that that immortal life and not necessarily die physically? I think that for me and for many people, looking at physical immortality, we learn to embrace death. Not necessarily saying, hey, we want to die, because that would be suicidal. And anyone who has that thought right now that they want to die is really not mentally healthy. All the people anyone who's feeling physically healthy and mentally healthy, if you ask them if they want to keep living, they're going to say, yeah, of course. They're not going to say, no, I want to die. So it's only when physical and mental deterioration come in to play, or emotional issues come into play, that people want to die and have that conscious feeling come to the forefront. And that's based on a fear. The death urge is based on a fear of life. So that's the other side of the coin is, you have the fear of death, and then you have the fear of life, which is very much hidden, just like the fear of success. People have fear, like the fear of failure. Most people recognize that. They're like, yeah, I don't want to fail. But they often don't recognize the fear of success. And it's the same thing with the fear of life. And they're just two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. I feel that with you mentioning the death urge, there's the two big journeys that I've been having with I guess where my growth edges have been is one with Eros, so with liberating sexual energy and pleasure energy from the constraints of this is for me and my girlfriend, or this is, like having what we call temple space, where kind of free play and connection and simply opening up that energy for wherever it wants to run is becoming a regular practice in our world. And it's amazing the fear that have had to be overcome to be like, I feel this, I feel an attraction, I feel a flow of pleasure that goes this way. And this essentially recognizing it's just life force that wants to move certain ways. And then the kind of, I guess, the Thanatos, the death urge, or meeting that edge of feeling like dying. And I want to get into breath stuff with you in a moment as well, because I feel there's one of my places that I really got to play with that edge was in getting into jiu-jitsu and, having big dudes like basically squashing me and not being able to breathe and feeling this like, holy fuck, like my animal is suddenly ready to fight, to do whatever it has to do to like get the next breath, or like get this gorilla off me, and it's really feeling also with some breath practices and some sort of tantric practices, really going into that holding and that, that breath hunger place of like holding and like, fuck, I'm going to die. And feeling the amount of energy that gets liberated from going to either of those edges of free life force or facing death. And, I guess I'd love to unpack the breath work, because that's a very key part of your work from what I can see. And it's becoming more and more part of my journey as well. Did you train with Leonard Orr? Is that correct? Was that one of your teachers? Yeah. I'd love to hear a bit about your journey with breath work and where it fits into this whole philosophy.
Well, yeah, breath work, that's the capstone of it all for me. It's like there's not really there's nothing we can do that's not going to involve breath work. Any type of practice, any type of exercise, sex, being born. If a person dies, the breath work is a part of the situation. So how do we play with the breath in a way that it's not like a belief system, just another belief system? Well, that's the cool thing about the breath, is that uh, it is beyond belief. Like, you can look, people talk about these spiritual experiences and these great visions they have in this ayahuasca ceremony, and how this came to them. They saw this, that, and the other, and those things are cool. But often we can really miss what is the divinity, the transcendence and psychedelic nature of what is, by getting caught up in all these visions, getting caught up in in another illusion of some type of sort. And we think that it's that it's better because we're having this colorful vision blast in our awareness. But the joy of life is just the natural breath, just that's what spirit means, breath, in spiritus, in Latin, as breath, as spirit. Chi is breath and spirit. Ki is breath and spirit in the certain Asian languages. And you have Sanskrit, you have prana being breath and spirit, you have mana in the Pacific Islands being life force and breath. So we can have a spiritual experience right now and anytime with the breath. The breath is the foundation for a biological and anatomical experience of unity consciousness. So we don't have to go for extreme visions and go for feeling this, that, or the other. It's just about being with the spirit, the same spirit that's keeping us alive every moment and maintaining our body, just being with it. So breath work is the natural, is the great natural perfection. We talk about Dzogchen in the Tibetan system, and it's called the great perfection. But even, and this is just perfection as it is, that all this universe, all whatever's arising, all of our experience is the great perfection. It all is enlightenment. Yet we wouldn't be able to experience that biologically if we weren't breathing, anatomically if we weren't breathing. And so that's what we couple with that awareness, that everything as it is the great perfection, and we just breathe into it, and we just breathe with it, and we let it go. And there's a lot of deeper breath techniques. Breath is, the lungs produce the most DMT in the body. We can alkalize our blood through breathing. 70% of elimination is through the breath. There's so many little factoids about the breath that make it, that empower us to know that this is the built-in prayer that we all share. So we could do some. We could do a little something real quick if you want to.
Let's do it, man. I'm already just listening. I'm already kind of dropping into this kind of oneness state. Yeah. So take it away, bro.
So we merge the inhale to the exhale, and merge the exhale to the inhale. So there's no pauses in between. It's uniting the inner with the outer, the seen and the unseen. We want to breathe loud. We want to breathe so we can hear it. So that way we listen to our breath instead of our thoughts. We allow gravity to exhale for us. That's if you believe in gravity. It's good for the breath to be omnidirectional, to breathe in all directions, not just trying to breathe horizontally or breathe down, but to breathe in all directions in the torso. So that's just something gentle, just some gentle connected breathing. If we wanted to, we could have sparked it up a little more and got even more tingly and more activations happening. But yeah, it's just a little taste.
Feeling it. Yeah, it's becoming a big part of my practice. And I have a strength trainer who's really switched on to breath work. So we did a few tweaks the other day of just where the holding and the releasing is. And it's like all of a sudden lifting more reps on one breath. And it's like, this is crazy. Like nothing in the musculature or nervous system has changed since yesterday. And, you know, more reps, heavier weights, less fatigue. And it's just like, fuck, I walked out of there yesterday, like tripping off it, you know?
Yeah. There's a great book, related to that just came out, called Breathing for Warriors. Breathing for Warriors.
I'm gonna write that down. I'm into it.
Either that or Breath for Warriors, but it's really excellent. There's 2 really good ones came out this year, and I normally don't. I'm not all into people's breathing books, but there's another one by James Nestor that came out, and it's called Breathe. And they're both on Audible. They're both on audiobook, and I have the audios and the physicals of both of them just because they're great enhancements for my practice. And there's so much in line and in tune, but then they also explain some of the science behind a lot of the other breaths that I used to use in Kundalini yoga and in Egyptian yoga a lot more, and just getting more in-depth details about how some of these breaths work and the new science that people have been finding, the new data that people have been collecting through experiments with these breaths has been, it's just strengthening, because when you can plug this information into your intellect while you're doing this, then it's just gonna strengthen it for you.
Yeah. That's something that I listened to your talk on Curious Conversations with Paisley, with my bro Paisley. And, and particularly the last bit on breath at the end was really fascinating to me, because I've been coming to, there's so many practices, meditate. A lot of us who've been doing things for a few years, there's so many different parts and so many philosophies and techniques. But at a certain point, I start to ask myself, is this more conditioning? Like this is this beautiful Buddhist piece, and I love a lot of Buddhism, and there's still dogma in here, there's still the cultural conditioning of the people who made up this tradition and where they lived and how their politics and all that stuff. And, something you said about breath that really landed for me was it precedes all that. Like it's not a conditioning, it's a biological function. So it doesn't matter your philosophy or your cultural structures that you're running, your breath, it predates that. And I think there's something really powerful in that for those, when people can be getting caught up in, well, is this part of this philosophy true? Because if you go over here, they say something different, and it's like, fuck, just breathe, just be here now.
Right.
On that though, one of the common threads between again some of our language and ideas is tantra, and
Mm-hmm.
tantra is a thing that in the world again means a lot of different things to different people. But
Yeah.
I would love to unpack, what does tantra mean to you, and how does that come into your framework and your reality?
Well, Tantra, if we go to the some of the original meanings of Tantra, um, one of the original meanings is to continuous. Tantra means just unbroken,
Mm.
an unbroken stream. And that can be like an unbroken stream of awareness or even an unbroken breath. So that is the main way I like to approach Tantra, is that from the perfect, from the beginning, unbroken, uh, continuous in awareness. That's what we are. We've been perfect since the beginning, and this is unbroken. It's only broken up in our false awarenesses. So anytime we forget our perfection from the beginning, forget our original nature, forget our infinite beauty, and when we forget those things, that's when we are not enjoying in tantra anymore. But tantra is still carrying on unbroken. We've just sort of broken away with
Mm.
our thoughts. And the same thing with our breath. When the breath is continuous and connected and unbroken, we're able to enjoy that tantric state. But when we're getting held up with our breath, and this relates to the language again, because we can just breathe connected most of the time until we want to say something. And then when we start saying something, our breath isn't as connected.
Mm.
And so to keep the breath deliberate while we're speaking also helps keep the words deliberate while we're speaking.
Mm.
And to have deliberate words while we're speaking will actually affect the way we think about things. And it'll affect the way we think about things faster than trying to change how we think about things. If we can speak the words the way we'd like them to, the way that we know they're most resonant, the way that we know these words support us and the people we're speaking to, that magic speech that we're speaking about. It's creating the story, the ideal story. It's illustrating the ideal story that we'd like to illustrate. Then these words have the ability to help our brain in the internal chatter, the self-talk that we have, begin to rearrange. But if we don't go so far to change the way that we speak with our word, with the actual words that come out of our mouth, then our internal thoughts aren't going to change. Oftentimes people think it's the other way around, that they just change the way they're thinking, and then they're going to say some, then they're going to start speaking such sweet and loving things, and they'll no longer be cursing at people, and they'll no longer be speaking curses on others. But it's more so if we can speak uh, without shoulds and shouldn'ts. Now, if we can speak in a way where we're okay with using a few extra words and a few extra pauses to select the words that work for what we're getting across, to select the breath to choose the breath while we're speaking, then these words have more intention and more resonant power and more vibration even to our pronunciation of them. And it's true, some people aren't able to receive slower talking because it frustrates them. And but I think that's a good practice.
I remember having a girlfriend who would be stressed and really caught up, and I would get her to listen to Eckhart Tolle, and she'd be like, "It makes me even more angry." And I'm like, "That's because you're not okay with stillness." And this guy's a lot about stillness. What I'm hearing though there that I'm really enjoying is that it's about integrating mind and body and embodying what we're saying, rather than sort of separating off to go into the mental to then speak, which is something I know that I can do because my mind can be this runaway train.
Mm-hmm.
But that's given me some pieces just that you're transmitting there that I can take with me for sure. I'm curious, you're quite a prolific recording artist. Like you put out a lot of work, so I'm guessing you spent a bunch of time in the booth in your life. How does this flow into that? Are you're bringing this with you into recording your voice when you're putting down albums and tracks and stuff?
Very often I am. It's a different style and approach almost every time. I mean, there's some elements that I keep similar on each track as far as how I approach making music, but I'll approach it differently and be okay with the change ups. But yeah, the breath work is, and the selection of the words is very important. So when I'm writing a rap, when I'm writing any lyrics, it's often that I have to edit things out because they're not going to be the words that I feel are supportive of me or others. And that could get in the way if I was being like, if I was a dualist, if I was thinking certain things are good and certain things are bad to say, that would get in the way. But that's not necessarily what I'm speaking about. There's no good or bad to say. There's things to say that I have a directive and a purpose with my music, and it's the main goal is to empower myself and others with things that were empowering for me. So different ideas that help strengthen me or made me laugh, or different ideas that entertained me when I thought of them, or that brought me some type of wealth through implementing them. These are the ideas that I like to put in my music. And so I'll be very particular about the words I use. Like there was one song I was writing with my friend, the song we put out recently called Vision Clear. And I had a part on there, I think it said, the canvas blank, I am the paint. What I think becomes the colors and shape. Out of nothing, something's taking place. Something, art imitates life, life can't be erased. And and then this is the part. It's the paint that you pick when you painting your pick. It's the paint that you pick when you're painting your pick. And then I had another part in there where I said it could make you well or something, or it could make you sick or something like that. And I had to take that out because I didn't want to tell anyone that they was finna get sick.
Yeah.
It just didn't. And even though the point was there, it didn't feel resonant with the song. And also it sounded a little corny too. That I saw you laughing. I saw you laugh. That wasn't even the real lyric, but it was something like that. And it I just realized that it's not how I want to represent. It's getting the point across, but it's getting the point across in a way that still is saying something that could play in someone's head and possibly cause a sickness. So I didn't want that. So
I love that.
We cut it out.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's a really nice insight. I've gone through this journey where I put out music and battled a lot in my sort of teens and 20s, for like 10 years, put that away when I turned 30. And then 2 years ago, I turned 40 and I was meditating, and it's like, you still want to do this thing. This thing is still here. And it's like, fuck, I thought it was done, And so I've been gradually rediscovering what would this being who has changed a lot since then, like a lot of what I was doing in my 20s was, I was just trying to prove myself who I was, make a point of like, I'm important, that was really the whole message of the thing. There was some other stuff in there. And so that has been journeyed somewhat. And so coming back of like, well, why would I be doing this now? I'm not really in a place where I want to like call people names or like, boast about that I get laid or whatever I was doing as a 23-year-old, So this has been this journey of how does the esoteric stuff and what inspires me now, how does that translate? So it's been really rediscovering like a style, and also having to go back and make peace with this little 25-year-old who was still in there somewhere, who's,
right.
He's the one who had a lot of the drive,
I remember you got skills. Wasn't you at the first thing we did that wasn't the festival? It was just the yoga class thing.
I didn't do the class. I did a gig after the yoga thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like we was okay. Yeah, that's that. See, it was hard. You had your more hair on your head though, right? On the top of your head.
Yeah,
when you were doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was my first step back into first time on stage in years.
You were snapping. Like see that's I was pretty sure that was you from that day. But I got confused because after all them times I went back and so much stuff had happened, I was like, man, but I remember you was snapping that day. You and what's the other little brother's name? I forgot, but Glenn, that's his name.
Oh, he was putting that stuff on. Yeah. I had just come back from like mystery school and was like getting the men to get into their feminine and the women into their masculine, and the women are going to energetically penetrate the men, and then I'm freestyling about it and stuff. And I was like, hey, this is new. Didn't plan this.
They was feeling it though. People was feeling it. It was like they were receptive of what you was bringing. You was freestyling too, weren't you?
That's all I had. I didn't have any songs yet. I was like, I just need to be doing this again, So yeah, rediscovering that is nice. And just some of those pieces that you're talking about as being like, I was writing this first stuff, and it's like, I wrote this track, The Goddess Delusion, and it's kind of is teasing the sort of feminine new age thing a little bit, and it's not intended to be mean, but it's taking the piss out of kind of goddess culture in its sort of superficial Instagram version, and it's the song itself, I'm happy with the writing, but then after I finished, I was like, is this what you're going to come back and do? Like, just mock everybody? Like, this is it, and it's like, okay, there's something deeper here. But that was almost tapping into what I used to do, which was like parody, satire, punchlines, and looking at the scene that I'm now in and being like, well, there's a few things here that, I think about all the time, and they kind of are annoying. So that's where I went. And then there was a journey of, okay, what else have you got? Like, are you just going to like mock the Instagram goddesses, or do you actually have some deeper stuff? And it's been nice to gradually excavate that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, I don't know, I either heard the song or I read the lyrics of that, and I liked it. I thought it was ill, of the Goddess Delusion.
Thanks, man.
I don't remember which one, but
I was very pleased to see that the goddesses in my network clearly have a sense of humor because they all started sharing it, because I was like, oh
yeah.
fuck, is this gonna that's my friendship base, my
You
client
thought you
base.
was gonna get canceled. They was gonna
Yeah,
me too your ass.
totally. Yeah. And there was a few of those, oh great, a 40-year-old white man who's writing raps about like putting down women. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't sound nice when you describe it like that.
Right.
Hmm. I'm wondering, do I want to buy you some time so you can have a smoke? Is that what we're doing? Or
Oh, we're good.
we're
Hey, I'm
good?
about to. I mean, I'm definitely about to spark it up.
Sweet. Um, we touched on a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, I guess there's a piece here that I would like to maybe ask you about, which is
Hello.
it's the borderline between this kind of non-dual reality of having at least being able to access the state sometimes of oneness, and then being in a world where there's maybe things we want to fight for or we don't agree with, or we feel we want to do something about, and how not to. Basically what I'm trying to ask is, how do you be an activist or a warrior for something without falling into victim consciousness where you separate and project into the they did this to me, or this is the division energy, without either what we see a lot of is people who are a little bit non-dual in their thinking. They become complacent and it's just, I'm going to meditate. And then people who are very active are often in the victim. How do you balance oneness with taking action to change things in the world?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I was meditating on it the other day because I was looking at myself. That's the best place to start. And I was like, yo, I've been making a lot of posts about like this vaccine and the Bill Gates thing, and how I don't think it's the way to go. And does that mean that I'm in fear of those things? Does it mean that there's something I'm fighting against? And then I looked at the other side of it and thought, well, you have these other people who are standing for what they think is going to be helpful for others, the vaccine, or even if they have plans of depopulation, these plans are rooted in them thinking that it's going to be helpful and alleviate suffering. Like they literally believe they're doing that for some helpful purpose. To not, I don't think that many people are out here just wanting to cause suffering. I don't necessarily think that, but through looking at the situation, I just thought to myself, okay, you have Bill Gates or people who are in favor of vaccines, and as long as I'm not seeing them as wrong and making their expressions wrong, it's totally fine for me to continue with my expressions, as long as I don't get caught up in my expressions. And so it's sort of just like neutralizing both sides. by realizing both sides are illusion. My position is illusion. Their position is illusion. Both sides of any argument, both sides of any argument are illusions. And if I can understand that, then I'm remaining in non-duality. If I don't understand that, then I'm in delusion or duality of illusion, which are two different things. Illusion and duality of illusion, which is delusion, or illusion to our detriment, is they're two different things. Illusion is beautiful. That's ilu, that's light, that is illustration. That's what this world is for illustration, for expression. But must be rooted in two things, actually, not just emptiness, but in compassion. That's why all of these systems make that the most important thing, really. You'll hear about love, loving kindness, and forgiveness and compassion before emptiness. Emptiness can be very abstract, and it can lead to nihilism or solipsism if one doesn't have the foundation of love and compassion. And so, but when you get to the root, you see that emptiness is the fulfillment of compassion, and compassion is the fulfillment of emptiness. They're both one. And so I would just say emptiness and compassion to those who are looking to be on the path of non-duality, but want to stand for justice. Even see your own position as empty, but see the love that you stand for as as empty as well, and see that as real. Know that emptiness is real. Know that love is real, because love isn't the concepts. Love isn't the titles. Love isn't the boxes. So love is empty. Love is what is, as is, neutral and natural. And so that is how one can approach it. You can still stand for justice, stand for rights, however it's making sense to you at the time, but you wouldn't fall so deep into delusion that standing for that would prevent you from being able to respond in real time to what is arising, instead of just fighting for a position, fighting for a specific side. You can act like me. I don't see Trump as bad or as good. Neither of those. He's one of the great examples that we could use. So many people see him as so evil and bad. Then you have a whole nother side that see him as a savior, and he can do no wrong. And it's like, it's all of those things are irrelevant. We we all are subject to these dualities, and Trump is one of those examples where people get caught up in their beliefs about him and can't really just look at the situation honestly and accept that, okay, he may do some things that could be seen as helpful in a particular context. He may do some things that may be seen as harmful in a particular context. And to be able to respond like that is very important, because you're not going to get caught up fighting the wrong battle. And many people are fighting battles that are based on delusion.
Yeah. And from what I see with people that get caught up in that place is it's not even that the battle is wrong. It's maybe right if they're doing the right and wrong game, but from that place, there's 1,000 more battles that you're going to have to get in, because so Trump disappears and the next person is, it was like, well, this guy's fucked for this reason. And now I've got to, and so what I see is when that polarization is allowed to run things, it becomes really exhausting for people that are trying to be good people, but there's a right wrong duality that sort of rules their life. I really enjoy that you're able to hold this perspective. Like it's quite, my perception is it's quite rare in the world. And as someone who listens to a bunch of rap as well, it's rare in that world to have, for me at least, to come across anyone who's juggling sort of non-dual concepts and what I would look at as an integrated spirituality. It's probably a good time for us to round out, but I would love to ask, if someone is wanting to get into your music, what's a good album or track to start with? If I've come from never heard of you, listen to this talk, okay, this guy's super interesting, what should I go and search for?
I would say probably the song All Seeing Eye, or the album Obia. It's my favorite project I put out this year, and it really incorporates all of my spirituality into the lyrics in a short and concise EP style. So you'll be able to get a lot of the things that I'm talking about here in the form of music, and that's really what my music is. It's really 75% of it is these types of conversations in the form of music, with but done in a slick way that's not corny most of the time. I may have a couple corny little joints here. I don't, when I look back, there's some things in my discography I'm just like, oh man, that sounds crazy. But some people still like it, so I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah,
I still like it too, but there's things that it's just don't sit with me the same way it did back then.
I love hearing that. I like the humility and the honesty of that, because I'm pretty sure every artist ever has to have that, even if some would not admit it,
Yeah.
Bro, I really appreciate you taking the time. I think a lot of people will get a lot out of this conversation. If you tuned in, thank you for listening. Please share this, please subscribe or whatever, press a button somewhere, and stay tuned for the next one. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for allowing this to happen.